Hello, good afternoon. My name is Martin Cowart, and welcome to Noonday Meditation and Contemplative Prayer Power Hour. Welcome to this beautiful, beautiful Saturday afternoon. Right here in northern New Jersey is where I am. Check into the chat and tell me hello and tell me where you are today on this Saturday afternoon. Because as you know, we come here together every day at noon, Monday through Saturday, to love and support each other through this pandemic. And today I'm excited to tell you about how I've connected a couple of dots here. I was reading a piece yesterday on what I might call the death of the ego. And it's really made me think about it's really thinking about the process of the death and my own personal processes and what I have gotten, what I have gotten from the death of my ego. And what comes to mind, the most important thing, the most transformational thing that happened to me was looking back into 2017 when I was a top producer in a major top Fortune 500 financial planning firm. I had all the trophies that went with it. I had a beautiful office with a window overlooking Park Avenue in Manhattan. And it was just everything my ego needed to feel a sense of importance and superiority to the rest of the world. And for those of you who have experienced imposter syndrome, you probably know that it is a condition that the ego loves. It's a favorite weapon, if you will, or tool of our ego to keep us small. It's that voice in our head that tells us we're not good enough, we're a fraud, and that we don't really deserve the success we've achieved, that we don't deserve the trophies that came with it, and that we're really a fraud, and that it's even worse because it creates a certain amount of fear that we also feel the fear that if anybody finds out we're a fraud, we're going to lose everything. We're going to lose all our trophies. We're going to lose our sense of importance. It's a total egoic mind trap of the drama triangle. It is a miserable way to live. And for some reason, I have my speculations, but I don't need to go into that now. But for some reason, in 2017, maybe I had finally reached a level of success that it was just so painful, because it seemed like to me the more successful I got, the louder the voice of the imposter syndrome seemed to get. Somebody's here. Let's see who this is here. There's my friend Mindy on Saturday afternoon. Glad to see you here. Thank you again for joining me today. We're talking about my story of the death of my ego, and I'll get to that in a second, about the power of that and why it needs to happen, and that's why I'm sharing, and I want to share it with you because it's important. It's an important breakthrough for me, and I want it to have the same kind of important breakthrough for you if you've never had one. So there I was, and in 2017, and my imposter syndrome became so loud, and so the fear and the pain became so acute that my business literally began to fail. I mean, I literally began to sabotage my own business. I was so miserable. I was so difficult to hang around with. Nobody wanted to work with me. Is the truth of the matter. It doesn't have to be a slow death. It can be pretty quick if you're ready to let go of it. It doesn't have to be slow. As a matter of fact, I would say we go through it a little bit every day. But we'll get to that in a second. But it was this last time. It took a long time. I guess it was whatever age I was in 2017 before it actually really was a transformational experience that I'm about to share with you. So yes, you're right. It is slow, but once it happens, it happens all the time, and you can keep past with it. But what I was going to say was that, so it got so bad that I became such a jerk. I was so full of fear that I was going that I was so tuned into this imposter syndrome in my head that I was actually just sabotaging my own business. And I was looking at bankruptcy right down the road. I mean, I couldn't make any money, and I had all these bills to pay, etc. And I was scared to death. And even a friend of mine who's a bankruptcy attorney said, Martin, maybe your best solution is just to declare bankruptcy and get rid of all this mess, And it was tempting, but I got some advice from my therapist and spiritual teacher who said, no, I want to offer a spiritual solution. I want you to consider contemplative prayer. You've got a great practice, and I want you to consider that as your for your solution. And I have to be honest, I've been a contemplative, and I've used spiritual. I've been on a spiritual journey for most of my life, but I rarely ever thought about it as something that would help me to resolve any kind of financial problems or create wealth or any of the things that my ego thought I had to have. And my ego wasn't about to, it was going to handle all of my financial matters and all my money affairs. And it wasn't about to let go of all it had spent a lifetime, like you say, a lifetime creating. It had created a personification of its own sense of importance and wealth and value, etc. And it wasn't going to go without a fight. But the truth is, it got so painful. The fear of bankruptcy and the pain of all of that just became so acute that I finally listened to my spiritual teacher, and that's what I did. I actually said, okay, and with intention, I began to use to go inside myself, to rely on my spiritual practice, my contemplative practice, to look for a solution to get me out of this mess. And I am so glad I did. Oh my God. Because I got to tell you something. As soon as I truly, truly, truly let go and surrendered control of all of this to that higher self within me, to the wise woman, I might call her, this instant, I'll never forget this. I realized I'm part of something where none of this stuff matters. I'm part of something so magnificent, so beautiful, so creative, that all my narcissistic worries and my ego literally died. It went away. It just dissolved. And it took my imposter syndrome and all my financial problems with it. It was like I was so freed. And this is going to sound a little bit cheesy, because it sounds a little cheesy to me, because when you hear people talking about waking up and being born again, it almost sounds like, really? But this is what happened. I'm going to be honest with you. What happened? This is what it felt like. It felt like all of a sudden, the biggest sense of relief and comfort, it was almost like loving energy just embraced my body. And I felt a sense of power and peace like I had never experienced before. I didn't even know it existed within myself. And I realized that I have all the power. We all have all this power within us, this bigger dimension of true power, creative power, that is basically untapped for a lot of us. At least was for me. As long as I had been going through a contemplative experience, I had never tapped into this dimension of peace and power in my life. And the thing about that is that what I've also learned in that process was a longing to share it with you. That's why I created this noonday broadcast. I wanted to share with you the power of contemplative prayer. And it got really clear to me reading this article that I'm going to share with you in a minute about how to articulate that process. It is the death of the ego, and with the death of the ego comes all of its constructions, which for me was the pain of an imposter syndrome that told me I wasn't worthy, I wasn't good enough, and all those kinds of things. And then they simply weren't true. And being relieved from all of that pain and aggravation, free from all that stuff, there's one spiritual truth that says when you receive the wisdom, you must share it. And it's not a must share it from the perspective of if I don't do it, something bad's going to happen. It's quite the opposite. It's more of a sense of I must share it because it's coming from my heart. My heart has a desire to share it. And another thing I learned when I went through this transformation and broke this code is that you got to listen to your heart. You got to do what the heart says. And you got to do what the heart says, not just do what it says, but do it with love and gratitude and see what happens. And oh my God, what has happened is now I'm living a life of love and joy and prosperity that I never thought existed because I'm tapped into a power within myself I never knew existed. It's a pretty exciting way to live. I look so forward to these every day, and I maybe have a handful of people who actually show up, and a couple of handfuls sometimes if I'm lucky, but it doesn't matter. I am following my heart and sharing my wisdom and truth with you, and giving you a place to understand and learn the power of this of contemplative prayer and meditation. That's why I'm here, and because I think there's a lot of people who are stuck somewhere in their ego, whatever that story is, whether it's imposter syndrome or I'm not good enough, or they're living in fear and scares and uncertainty, all those things that the ego, the drama the ego can attach to. There are, particularly with COVID-19, I know that there are people out there who are scared, who are feeling pain, who are trapped in what I might call the drama triangle. And it's painful. And if I can come on here every day at noon and share my story with you and give you an opportunity and teach you and show you what I do to step into my power, if I can show you what contemplative prayer looks like for me and bring presence to you through the internet, I think we can change the world. We can co-create. I'm on a mission. My heart's on a mission to create a new earth, I call it. And the new earth is not some utopian idea. It's really an idea of creating a world and economic structures and systems that come from the heart, that come, like what I'm doing here, that come from truth and compassion and love and prosperity. You can't go out and achieve prosperity. We are prosperity. You are prosperity. You are success. You are love. You are everything you're out looking, trying to get. You already got it. It's just our ego gets in the way. Hello, Rohit. Hey, Rohit. How are you doing? Good to see you. And Rohit reviewed I want to thank you for reviewing my new course, Practicing the Art of Presence, Practicing the Art of Being Present, the keys to living a life of love, joy, and prosperity. And he gave me some wonderful feedback. So thank you so much. And if anybody else would like to get that right now, I actually put it out for sale in the marketplace yesterday for $97 on mastermind.com. And but I'm still offering it to people, friends and family, to review and look at and get some feedback on. So you're welcome to it. I'm happy to share it with you. If you want to look at it, I just ask if you give me a little feedback. That's nice too, because I trust all of you for your wisdom in what I'm doing. This is the challenge for me, as I put it yesterday, is that as I created this workshop over the summer, I started out, I'm just going to do a little video for my clients, teach them how to meditate. But as I began to create the content and begin to write it, I began to practice it more so I could teach it better. And the more I practice it, the more it evolved. And the more I practice it, the more presence showed up. And presence got involved in the creation of the webinar and the video. And it was a summer project. But the beauty of this whole thing and the wildest thing is that the more I practice it, the more presence became into my life. And by practicing art of being presence is around more than ever. And that's an exciting way to live. And presence is the one that's guiding me right this moment to share this with you. And that's just a much more exciting way to live. So that's why we're here. That's why I'm here. And I'm glad you're here. Share it with me. Help me meet my heart's desire. I want to read a little bit of yesterday. I read it, but I'll read it again today. It's so appropriate, I think, to this idea. That came from it's a better understanding of ourselves, and it's written. It comes out of Richard Rohr's Daily Meditations, but but you'll see later. It's actually written by Cynthia Bourgeau, who's the Reverend Cynthia Bourgeau, who is a Episcopalian priest and contemplative, and she is a teacher in centering prayer. So if you want to learn a little bit about centering prayer, which is what I do and what I talk about here, I don't really teach it per se, but if you want to learn about centering prayer, I recommend going online and looking for Cynthia Bourgeau. It's spelled Bourgeault, the Reverend Cynthia Bourgeau, or Thomas Keating, and you'll find a lot of stuff on YouTube, etc., to help you learn the technique of centering prayer. It's a great way to pray. And maybe when we get to the prayer section in a minute, I'll take you through a little bit of the process and teach it to you. How about that? This is called True Self, Separate Self, Trusting a Deeper Aliveness. Richard Rohr says, I believe a regular practice of centering prayer is one of the most effective tools we have for discovering our true selves. Sitting in silence, we become adept at compassionately observing our separate self at work as it tries to maintain control of our inner narrative. Ultimately, however, with all genuine intention and attention, our true self is revealed, present to the presence of God. CAC faculty member Cynthia Bourgeau describes how this happens. When we enter into meditation or contemplative prayer, it's like a mini-death, at least from the perspective of the ego. We let go of our self-talk, our inner dialogue, our fears, wants, needs, preferences, daydreams, and fantasies. We simply entrust ourselves to a deeper aliveness, gently pulling the plug on that tendency of the mind to want to check in with itself all the time. Am I okay? Am I okay? Am I okay? Am I okay? In this sense, meditation is a mini rehearsal for the hour of our own death, in which the same thing will happen. There comes a moment when the ego is no longer able to hold us together, and our identity is cast to the mercy of being itself. This is an existential experience of losing one's life. Just as in meditation and contemplative prayer, we participate in the death of Christ, we also participate in his resurrection. For 20 minutes, our ego or separate self have not been holding ourselves in life. And yet life remains. Going in and says, oh, don't let go of me. You'll never make it without me. And so, well, wait a minute, we're going to try it. We're going to get still. We're going to let you go for a while. Let you take a little vacation. And we're going to listen to something deeper. And you know what? It works. Because as we come back, we're still here. And something bigger held us, actually. Something truer. Some more powerful, peaceful dimension within ourselves that we can't quite put our finger on holds us through the whole day, but with intention we bring it into consciousness, will hold us through the 20 minutes. That's the power. It's not ever about being disconnected from our true self. We can't be disconnected from our true self. We can't be disconnected from, or we wouldn't be, our bodies wouldn't work, but we can go unconscious. And that's what waking up is waking up the truth into consciousness. And that's what we do in meditation. And it's not that it goes away, but the ego gets in the way. But the shadows and the beliefs get in the way of us being able to experience that. So we feel lost and separate and alone, and we get sad and depressed, and all kinds of things happen. But the way back is to stop, let it go. That's what surrendering prayer is. It's stop, let it go, and get still. Stop, let it go, and get still. Okay. And yet life remains. Something in us has held us and carried us. And the same something we gradually come to trust will hold and carry us at the hour of our death. To know this, to really know this, is the beginning of resurrection life. And I would say, as we lose fear of death, we begin to lose fear of life. We wake up to the truth of life itself, and it becomes so much more exciting, so much more fun. We actually begin in the moment to live a life of love, joy, and prosperity, is what I call it. That's what we are. Why not live what we are? Prosperity, abundance, joy. Live that way, and all that comes with that. Virtually all the great spiritual traditions of the world share the conviction that humanity is the victim of a tragic case of mistaken identity. Certainly for me, I thought I had to be this, I don't know, important wealth manager that was important to the world. That's how I was going to make the world different. I was going to be important. Didn't have to do what I was going to do for you. It had more to do with what I looked like and how I felt about myself. There is a self, little self, and a big self. And our fatal mistake is confusing the two. The egoic self is in virtually every spiritual tradition immediately dispatched to the realm of illusory or at best transitory. It is the imposter who claims to be the whole. This imposter can, because this is important, this is what I will tell you, this imposter can become a good servant, but it is a dangerous master. Read that again. This imposter can become a good servant, but it's a dangerous, dangerous master. Just look at the loudest and the most dangerous people in the world today who are running on fear and cruelty and on their ego, on this false identification with who they think they need to be and who they are to be important and superior to others. And when you can see them as not who they truly are, but as an egoic representation of who they think they need to be in order to survive, then we, through empathy and compassion, can feel some love for them. At least that's true for me. I can feel compassionate for the president because what I see is a man who is so insecure, so broken, so sad, so pathetic, so miserable, that here he is, he's gotten himself into the most powerful position in the world, and God knows how much money he has, I don't care. But he has created this illusion of it, and he's so afraid it's going to be taken away because he knows it's not true. You see? He's afraid. And so if we can open up our hearts to the president right now with some compassion, because we've all been where he's been in some way or other. We've all been trapped in the false identification of our egoic mind. We just haven't been in positions where we could create this much danger. We could hurt. This many people could get hurt and that are getting hurt. That's the problem we got right now. And the solution is not at the same egoic level that created it. The problem is right here, going into our hearts and sharing it. That's the thing, from my perspective. Because this imposter can become a good servant, but it's a dangerous master, and that's so true. It was for me, and it certainly is for other people in the world. I see it. Awakening, which in Jesus' teaching really boils down to the capacity to perceive and act in accordance with the higher laws of the kingdom of heaven. a matter of piercing through the charade of the smaller self to develop a stable connection with the greater self, and becoming intimate with our spiritual identity, the sense of selfhood carried in our spiritual awareness. We become intimate with our spiritual identity and the sense of selfhood carried in our spiritual. We become aware of our Godhead. That's what it is. We become aware of our Godhead. Freud called it I think it was not Freud. Young called it the God archetype we all have. We all have a God archetype within us, which is Godhead. We have it. Through meditation, like centering prayer, it gradually becomes ingrained in us that losing one's life, regardless of the action that may ultimately be required of us in the outer world, entails first and foremost a passage from our ordinary awareness to our spiritual one. Because only at this deeper level of non-fear-based holistic perception will we be able to understand what is actually required of us. Wow, pretty clear, pretty spot on, isn't she? You know, when you get, it's just exciting to run around with you guys in these spiritual circles of people who've really fallen into and have found themselves in this higher level of consciousness and live that way most of the time, because we're the ones we're the light bearers. We're the ones that are here to inspire others and lift others up into this higher level of consciousness, so we can create this new earth. And I don't mean, again, I'm not going to go into all that again, but we all know what that means. It means a world where it's not toxic. It's safe for life to live. That's all it is. It's just a world that's nurturing for life to live. And is that too much to ask? Yeah, that's a great thing. What I have not felt is respect, and I have not wanted it for a long time, and recently let go of my need. That's a great thing, because what you have to ask yourself is, who needs respect? What's the story in you that told you that you weren't even getting respect? How do you know you're not getting respect? And what it ultimately comes in, you may have a hard time hearing this, but how are you respecting yourself? That's your answer. Because if you've got an external conflict, it's an internal conflict in you that you need to resolve. So what you've just shown me and shared with me is where your work is, where your own spiritual transformation needs to occur. Is to, like, where did you learn you weren't deserving of respect, for example? Like I wasn't. Where did I learn I wasn't deserving of love, of money and wealth, and so I would look at, where is it where do you have and surrender that, well, that's because you haven't felt it, because he from him you're not getting it. He doesn't have respect for the office. He doesn't have respect for himself. You can't get respect. You're never going to get respect out of other people, because they don't have it. He can't give you something. You can't feel something he doesn't have to give you. So that's a good observation. He doesn't have respect for himself, and he doesn't have respect for the office, because that's who that he's doing the best he can, because he doesn't know any other way to be. He doesn't know he's being disrespectful of the office. He certainly doesn't know he's being disrespectful of it. He's just clinging to hang on to this ego-driven personification of himself to make him feel important and powerful. So of course he doesn't respect himself. He's never going to respect the office of the presidency. And you're never going to get it from him. But what you can do is you can go in and find, but if that's the part that's bothering you, let me just seriously, if your part is the part of respect, is where are you not respecting yourself? And there's your answer. Again, it comes back to, we all have to do the internal work first before anything will shift in the external world. So like in my experience with the president, if you want to go see this, you're welcome to. I have a YouTube video on me forgiving the president. And I had to take responsibility for, really, in that case, I had to take responsibility for how much I could appreciate the president being this dark shadow that I can project all my dark stuff on. So it's like for you, is what you're projecting on him is when you don't respect things that you believe deserve respect. And ultimately, that's yourself. So I would suggest looking at how you are not respecting yourself. And what story in your past are you still holding on to that told you you weren't worthy of respect? That's where it comes down to you. If you want to solve a problem out in the world, we have to go inside ourselves and solve the core conflict we've got going on inside ourselves. So if you're looking at the president saying, of course, that's what you got to learn. That's exactly what I'm telling you. You can't, you can't. You're being honest, and I appreciate that. But first is why is it you can't respect him? Why can't you respect him? You know, it has nothing to do with him. He's not going to change. But the great lesson for you, Mindy, is to look at what it is that's not allowing you to respect Mindy and love Mindy the way she deserves it. Okay? Try it. Good. Yeah. The beauty of having someone that's come to power from the power of darkness and the power of, he connects to people's victim, because that's what he is. He's a victim of the world, and he's trying his best to prove his worth and his value and his importance from all kinds of things. And of course, you're not going to respect the behavior that I didn't respect the behavior that I had when I was dealing with imposter syndrome. But I had to go back and look at what that core was, and it was a belief system that I wasn't good enough. In your case, what is the belief system you have in you that's keeping you from fully respecting yourself? And you'll learn that you're never gonna condone people's bad behavior. But you can begin to see people as doing the best they can, and you can begin to realize that what's happening in your case is that your ego is identifying with his ego. And when we do contemplative prayer, we can transcend the ego thinking mind, and we can begin to observe that interaction between two egos. Your egoic personification of Mindy and is in conflict with your perception, your egoic perception of Donald Trump. Neither in that conversation, in that drama triangle, you're not seeing the true Donald Trump, and you're not letting him see you. So the purpose of going into contemplation is to begin to tap into that authentic self, so that you can see that he's the same light of love that you are. But he is so hidden from it that he doesn't even know it exists. It's so buried deep in his consciousness, under his conscious radar screen, he doesn't even know that dimension exists. Not even aware of it. I don't know for sure. I don't know anything for sure, but I seriously doubt it. You do. You've experienced it. We've talked about it. So that's what I would say about that. It's not about being right or wrong. It's but he's never going to respect it, because that's who he is. He doesn't know how. What we got to do is we got to get him out of there, so we can get somebody in there who does have the traits of what I would call a good leader, somebody who we can trust, who's trustworthy, who tells the truth when it's more comfortable to not, somebody who's got empathy and compassion and some level of competency. Because he's dangerous. There's no doubt he's dangerous. We got people dying because he's so inept. and doesn't have the qualifications what we need as a leader in the world today. So, but that's what we've learned. That's what we've learned. That's what we're learning. Yeah, thank you for the dialogue. I love it when people come on and actually begin to when you engage with me, it makes it a lot more fun, because then I can sort of, just makes me even more present. Let's meditate. Let me turn the timer on for 20 minutes. And again, I want to say this, is that I know sometimes, because I can see people popping in and out, is that stick around now. I appreciate you hearing what I've got to say. I really want you to listen to, I want you to get still and listen to that true self within yourself for your power. This is that point. The point is, I want you to really get into your power today, because we need you in your power. The world needs you in your power. It means you coming from your heart. And the one way we do it, we lift our hands up into the air. And I ask you today, I want you just to feel, that's how far God is from you. That's just how far God is. It is right here. You don't got to look any further. You can just let go of looking, surrender it, and be here with it right now, and invite it to come into consciousness. And when I was talking about centering prayer, it's something that Thomas Keating discovered, and we're going to do that a little bit. Actually, I do it every day, but I'm going to explain it a little bit as we go into it. It's just a process of constantly letting go of your thoughts. So we're going to go into this with an intention of just getting still. Just do it right now. Just get still. Set an intention. I'm going to get still. And now we're going to do something called letting go. I'm going to invite you to let go of all your thoughts, all your beliefs, all your opinions, all your judgments about me, about yourself, about the president, about COVID-19, about God. Let them go. Just let them go. Release them. Let them go. And as thoughts come up, and they will, release them. Let them go. Thought comes up, let them go. Thought comes up, let it go. Thought comes up, let it go. And you do it over and over and over. And you just sort of dance in the spaces between. And listen. As the mind gets quieter and more still, there's almost like a pulling within yourself that will pull you deeper into that sense of power and presence and peace within us. And so now they'll even wake you up, because, you'll find yourself thinking about what you're doing, and all of a sudden you'll get out of it. So again, let it go. Hold on to nothing. Pay attention to the spaces between thoughts. Pay attention to the spaces between my words as a way to practice that. Notice the thoughts that might come up in your head when I'm not speaking. Let those go. Do they really matter? Are you thinking, when Mark going to speak again? What's he going to say? Does it matter? Let it go. Be still. Let it go. And listen. And know that I am God, not me. Not me, Martin, but I am. Allow the bell to wake you up. Sometimes we think we're meditating, we're not. We're actually in a deep thought trance. Not that we're doing anything bad or wrong, that's just where we are. I go into them all the time. That's why I have the bell. So just let it, you'll go back. Reset, drop it, let it go, and listen. Welcome back. I can't help but I want to share. I can't help but get a little tickled when that interval bell goes up because it just makes my ego furious. Because my ego gets all nestled in with the thought and it's trying to convince me how good the thought is. So it just holds on to it and it just works with it and comes up with all kinds of stuff. Then that bell goes off and it wakes me up. It's like, oh, I wasn't meditating. I was all caught up in a thought. But it was a good thought. It was still a thought. And the fact that I was labeling good thought really means it's a thought, because all thoughts are thoughts, not good or bad. They're just thoughts. And you just have to be aware of what they are and then let them go, at least in this moment. So thank you. Thank you for letting me share with you. Thank you for sharing today with me. Thank you for being here. We get into the moment. We bring presence in and we transform. We transform ourselves, and when we transform ourselves, we transform the world, because we are the world. And we are part of the world, and we are part of creating a new earth, which is grounded in love, prosperity, and truth. And it's exciting to be part of it. And thank you for joining me. So may love and prosperity prevail.